Zephyr 9 stood at the viewing port of the transport ship. The metal walls around him felt cold against his crystal skin. Through the thick glass he could see Gateway Prime growing larger. The human military station looked rough and used. Dark scorch marks covered its metal sides. Weapon ports stuck out like angry teeth. The Cathari researcher had never seen anything like it. His own people built their stations smooth and clean. They made them safe and comfortable. This human place looked like it was built for war. First time seeing a human military base? Asked the transport pilot. She was a blue-skinned Vorthan. With 4 arms, yes, Zephyr 9 replied. His voice made a soft ringing sound like glass touching glass. My people do not usually visit such places, the pilot laughed. I don't blame you. Humans build everything like they expect it to get. Blown up, Zephyr 9 touched the data pad in his travel pack. It held his orders from the Galactic Coalition Command. The mission seemed impossible. They wanted him to study human combat methods. They wanted to know why humans fought so well when other species failed. The problem was simple. Humans felt pain just like everyone else. But they kept fighting when others would stop. They pushed forward when others would run away. The Coalition needed to understand this. Zephyr 9 was not the right choice for this job. His people, the Cathari, avoided pain at all costs. Their bodies were made of living crystal. Any crack or chip caused terrible suffering. Most Cathari would rather die than feel real pain, but Zephyr 9 was different. He had always been curious about other species. He had studied alien biology for 60 standard years. When the Coalition asked for volunteers, he had stepped forward. His superiors thought he was crazy. The transport ship docked with a loud clang. Metal scraped against metal. The sound made Zephyr 9 wince. His crystal body could feel every vibration. Docking Bay 7, the pilot announced. Watch yourself in there. Humans are loud. Zephyr 9 gathered his equipment and walked to the airlock. The door hissed open. Warm air rushed in, carrying strange smells, metal, oil, and something else. Something sharp and bitter. He stepped into the docking bay. The noise hit him like a wave. Machines roared. People shouted orders. Metal crashed against metal. For a Cathari, it was almost too much. You must be our alien observer, said a voice behind him. Zephyr 9 turned around. A human female stood there. She was tall and strong-looking. Her uniform was clean but worn. Dark hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were sharp and alert. I am Lieutenant Lisa Hart, she said. Welcome to Gateway Prime. I am Zephyr 9, he replied. Thank you for accepting my assignment. Lisa looked him up and down. His crystal body caught the light and threw it back in rainbow colors. He stood 7 feet tall but was thin like a stick. His head was round like a ball, where humans had eyes. He had 2 glowing blue lights. You sure you want to do this? Lisa asked. We're heading into a hot zone. Real combat. People get hurt. I understand the risks, Zephyr 9 said. My orders are clear, Lisa shrugged. Your choice. Follow me. She led him through the station corridors. Human soldiers filled the halls. They carried weapons and wore armor. Many had bandages on their arms or faces. Some limped as they walked. But they all kept moving. They all looked ready to fight. One young soldier bumped into the wall. Blood ran down his forehead. He wiped it away with his sleeve and kept walking. Zephyr 9 stared in shock. Any Cathari with such an injury would be in the medical bay. For days, training accident, Lisa explained. Private got too close to a practice grenade. He'll be fine. Should he not seek medical attention? Zephyr 9 asked. For that scratch? Nah, he's walked off worse. They entered a large room filled with humans. Some were exercising with heavy weights. Others practiced fighting with their bare hands. Sweat covered their faces. Their breathing was hard and fast. In one corner, a human male was doing pull-ups. His arms shook with effort. Blood dripped from his hands where the metal bar had cut his skin. But he kept going up and down, up and down. That's Sergeant Danny Cross, Lisa said. Best squad leader we have. He's been at it for 2 hours. His hands are bleeding, Zephyr 9 observed. Yeah, the bar is pretty rough. He forgot his gloves. Today, why does he not stop? Lisa looked confused. Stop? We deploy tomorrow. He needs to be ready. Zephyr 9 watched the sergeant complete 10 more pull-ups. The blood dripped faster now, but the human's face showed no sign of pain, only determination. This way, Lisa said. Captain Morrison wants to meet you. They walked down another corridor. The walls were covered with pictures. Human soldiers in different uniforms. Some of the pictures had dates from hundreds of years ago, others looked recent. Our Hall of Heroes, Lisa explained. Every human who died defending Coalition space. There were thousands of pictures. Thousands of dead humans. Zephyr 9 tried to count them but gave up. So many deaths. Yet humans kept volunteering to fight. They reached a door marked Command Center. Lisa pressed her hand to a scanner. The door slid open. Inside, a dozen humans worked at computer screens. Maps covered the walls. Red dots marked enemy positions. Blue dots showed Coalition forces. There were far more red dots than blue ones. Captain Morrison, Lisa called out. The Cathari observer is here. A human male turned around. He was older than Lisa, gray hair. Scars on his face and neck. His uniform jacket hung open. Bandages covered his left arm from wrist to elbow. Welcome aboard, Captain Morrison said. I'm Jake Morrison. I'll be your babysitter for this mission. He held out his right hand. Zephyr 9 knew this was a human greeting. He extended one of his crystal appendages. Jake gripped it firmly, too firmly. Pain shot through Zephyr 9's arm. But the human did not seem to notice. Sorry about the mess, Jake said, waving at his bandaged arm. Had a little accident in the training room yesterday. Knife fighting practice. You were injured during practice? Zephyr 9 asked. Just a flesh wound, happens all the time. The important thing is to learn from it. Jake walked to the main display screen. The planet Kepler 442 be rotated slowly. Red markers showed where the enemy had landed. This is our target, Jake said. The Vrak. Empire invaded 3 days ago. They've got superior numbers and better weapons. Most species would call this a lost cause, but not humans? Zephyr 9 asked. Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. Humans don't believe in lost causes. We believe in making the other guy pay. For every inch, Lisa stepped forward. Sir, should I show our guest to his quarters? Good idea. We deploy at 0600 tomorrow. Get some rest while you can. Jake turned back to Zephyr 9. Fair warning, Crystal Man. Where we're going, things get messy. If you want to back out, now's the time. Zephyr 9 thought about his comfortable laboratory back home. He thought about his safe research projects. He thought about his people's horror when they learned of his volunteer mission. I will stay, he said. Jake nodded. Your funeral. Lisa, get him settled. As they left the command center, Zephyr 9 heard Jake calling out orders. Tell the medics to prep for heavy casualties. Tell supply we need more ammunition. Tell everyone to write their letters home. The human captain spoke of death and injury like they were normal things. Like they were just part of the job. Zephyr 9 followed Lisa to his assigned quarters. The room was small but clean. A narrow bed, a desk, a small window showing the stars outside. Mess hall is down the corridor, Lisa said. We eat at 0500. Don't be late. She started to leave, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Yes. Why are you really here? Your people don't fight wars? You don't even like getting hurt? So why volunteer for this? Zephyr 9 considered the question. My people think humans are crazy. They think you fight because you do not understand pain. I want to know if they are right. Lisa laughed. Oh, we understand pain. We just don't let it stop us. She left him alone in the small room. Zephyr 9 sat on the bed and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow he would see human combat for the first time. Tomorrow he would learn if humans were brave or just foolish. Outside his window, fighter ships moved in formation. Human pilots getting ready for battle. Getting ready to fly into danger. Getting ready to risk everything for a planet full of strangers. Maybe his people were wrong about humans. Maybe there was something else driving them. Something beyond simple ignorance of pain? Tomorrow he would find out. The alarm woke Zephyr 9 before dawn. Red lights flashed in his quarters. A voice echoed through the station speakers. All personnel to battle stations, deployment in 1 hour. This is not a drill. Zephyr 9 had barely slept. The sounds of the human station never stopped. Machines hummed. People walked the corridors at all hours. Metal groaned and creaked as the structure moved through space. He put on the special armor the humans had made for him. It was lighter than their own gear, but still felt heavy on his crystal body. The helmet had to be modified to fit his round. Head dot in the mess hall, humans ate their breakfast quickly. They talked in low voices, some wrote on small pieces of paper. Others cleaned their weapons. The mood was serious but not afraid. Zephyr 9 sat at a table near Lisa Hart. She was eating something that looked like pressed grain and drinking black liquid from a metal cup. "Coffee," she said, noticing his stare. "Want some?" "What does it do?" "Keeps you awake, makes you alert, tastes terrible." She pushed the cup toward him. Zephyr 9 touched it with one crystal finger. The liquid was hot. Steam rose from the surface. The smell was sharp and bitter. "No, thank you," he said. Lisa shrugged and finished the drink. "More for me." A young human female sat down across from them. She looked barely old enough to be a soldier. Her uniform was new and clean. Her hands shook slightly as she ate. "Private Amy Stone?" Lisa said. "This is her first combat deployment." Amy looked up at Zephyr 9. Her eyes were wide and nervous. "Is it true you've never seen humans fight before?" "That is correct," Zephyr 9 replied. "Then you picked a hell of a first time," said another voice. They turned to see Sergeant Danny. Cross approaching. His hands were wrapped in bandages from yesterday's training. But he carried his gear like the injuries meant nothing. "Vrak Empire doesn't mess around," Danny said, sitting down. "They hit hard and fast. No prisoners, no mercy." "Have you fought them before?" Zephyr 9 asked. 3 times. Lost good people each time, but we made them pay for it." Amy's hands shook more. She put down her food and stared at the table. "First mission nerves?" Lisa explained quietly to Zephyr 9. "Everyone gets them." "I did not think humans felt fear," Zephyr 9 said. Danny laughed. "Oh, we feel it, we just don't let it control us." Captain Morrison entered the mess hall. The talking stopped. Everyone looked at him. "Listen up," Jake said. "Vrak forces have taken the main settlement on Kepler 442b, about 2,000 human. Colonists are trapped there. Intel says the Vrak are using them as shields." He activated a small device. A hologram appeared above it. The image showed a farming community. Simple buildings surrounded by fields of crops. Now smoke rose from several structures. "Our job is simple," Jake continued. "Get in, rescue the civilians, get out. The Vrak have superior firepower. They have better armor. They have more ships, but they don't have what we have." "What's that?" "Sir?" Amy asked. Jake smiled. "The will to do whatever it takes." 20 minutes later, Zephyr 9 found himself in a troop transport ship. 20 human soldiers sat around him. They checked their weapons. They talked quietly among themselves. Some looked calm, others looked nervous. All looked determined. The ship shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Alarms beeped, red lights flashed. Through the small windows, Zephyr 9 could see fire in the sky. Enemy ships were shooting at them. "Incoming!" The pilot shouted. The transport lurched sideways. Something exploded nearby. The sound was louder than anything Zephyr 9 had ever heard. His crystal body rang like a bell. Lisa, sitting next to him, was thrown against the wall. Her head hit the metal with a loud crack. Blood ran down her face, but she just wiped it away and checked her weapon. "You are injured," Zephyr 9 said. "I'm fine," Lisa replied. "Just a bump." Another explosion. The transport spun wildly. 2 humans were thrown from their seats. One hit the ceiling hard. Zephyr 9 heard bones crack, but the soldier just groaned and pulled himself back into position. 2 minutes to drop zone," the pilot called out. Danny stood up despite the shaking ship. "Listen up. We go in fast and hard. Stick to your teams. Watch your sectors. Nobody gets left behind. The rear door of the transport began to open. Wind and noise rushed in. Below them, Zephyr 9 could see the burning settlement. Dark shapes moved between the buildings. Vrak soldiers. Go, go, go! Danny shouted. The humans ran toward the open door. They jumped out into empty air. Zephyr 9 watched them fall toward the ground with small parachutes. Your turn, Crystal Man. The pilot yelled. Zephyr-9 looked down at the battle below. Energy. Beams flashed between buildings. Explosions lit up the smoke. It looked like chaos. It looked like death, but he had come this far. He jumped. The fall was terrifying. Wind tore at his armor. The ground rushed up to meet him. His parachute opened. With a jerk that sent pain through his crystal joints, he landed hard in a field outside the settlement. Dirt and rocks scattered around him. The impact hurt, but nothing broke. Around him, humans were already moving. They formed into small groups. They advanced toward the settlement with their weapons ready. Zephyr 9, Lisa called out. Over here! He ran to her position behind a destroyed farming machine. Danny and Amy were there too. All three humans had dirt and scratches on their faces. What do we do now? Amy asked. Her voice was tight with fear. We do our job, Danny said. Lisa, take point. Amy, watch R6. Crystal Man, stay in the middle and try not to get shot. They moved toward the nearest building. It was a storage barn for grain. The walls had holes blown in them. Smoke drifted out the broken windows. Halfway there, enemy fire erupted around them. Energy beams cut through the air. They hit the ground and threw up clouds of dirt. Contact front? Lisa shouted. The humans dropped to the ground and began shooting back. Their weapons made sharp cracking sounds. Sparks flew where their bullets hit enemy armor. Zephyr 9 pressed himself flat against the dirt. Energy beams passed over his head. The heat made his crystal skin tingle. Fear filled his mind. Every instinct told him to run away, but the humans did not run. Lisa crawled forward despite the enemy fire. Danny moved to the left to get a better angle. Even Amy, scared as she was, kept shooting. Then Amy screamed. A Vrak energy beam had hit her leg. The armor was cracked and smoking. Blood leaked out between the damaged plates. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. Medic? Danny called out. Human with a red cross on his helmet crawled over to them. Corporal Ben Tucker. He started working on Amy's wound while energy beams flew overhead. How bad? Danny asked. Bad enough, Ben replied. She needs proper medical attention. Can she move? With help. Zephyr 9 expected them to call for evacuation. Amy was badly hurt. She needed surgery. She needed a hospital. But Danny just nodded. Patch her up, he said. We keep moving. Ben sprayed something on Amy's wound. She screamed again, but bit down on her sleeve to muffle the sound. He wrapped the leg tight with bandages. That should hold for a while, Ben said. Amy tried to stand. Her face was pale and covered with sweat, but she picked up her weapon. I can still fight, she said through gritted teeth. Zephyr 9 stared in amazement. The young human was badly injured. She was in obvious pain, but she wanted to continue the mission. Are you certain? He asked her. Amy looked at him with eyes full of pain and determination. Those colonists are counting on us. I'm not letting them down because of one little burn. One little burn? Zephyr 9 could see the wound was serious. It would disable any member of his species. But Amy called. Little. Move out, Danny ordered. They advanced toward the settlement. Amy limped but kept up. Lisa led the way with her head wound still bleeding. Danny coordinated their movement despite the bandages on his hands as they got closer to the buildings. The fighting got worse. Vrak soldiers appeared from behind cover. Their weapons fired streams of energy that could cut through metal. Their armor was thick and black. They looked like machines built for killing, but the humans kept pushing forward. When Lisa's weapon jammed, she fixed it while running. When Danny ran out of ammunition, he picked up a Vrak weapon and used it against them. When Amy stumbled from pain, she used a wall to steady herself and kept shooting. Zephyr 9 began to understand something. These humans were not ignoring their pain. They felt every injury, they knew every risk, but they had something else driving them forward, something stronger than fear, something stronger than pain. They had a job to do, and they would not stop until it was done, even if it killed them. The settlement was a maze of smoke and fire. Buildings burned around them, bodies lay in the streets, some human, some Vrak, all dead. Zephyr 9 followed Danny's squad through the chaos. Amy still limped from her leg wound. Lisa's head injury had stopped bleeding but left her face covered in dried blood. Yet both humans moved with purpose. They reached the town center. A large building stood there with thick walls and small windows. The colonist shelter. Vrak soldiers surrounded it with heavy weapons. How many? Danny whispered into his radio. Thermal scan shows about 30 Vrak outside, came the reply. Unknown number inside with the hostages. Lisa studied the building through her scope. No clear shot. They've got the entrances covered. We need a distraction, Danny said. Captain Morrison's voice crackled through their radios. All teams. This is command. Vrak reinforcements incoming, heavy armor. We've got maybe 20 minutes before they arrive. 20 minutes to save 2,000 people. Zephyr 9 calculated the odds. They were impossible, but the humans did not seem concerned with odds. Then, how's our wounded? Danny asked the medic. Then Tucker checked his patients. Besides Amy, 3 other soldiers had been hit during the advance. One had a broken arm. Another had burns across his back. The third had taken shrapnel in his side. They'll live, Ben said, but they need real medical attention soon. Can they fight? If they have to, Danny nodded. This was the human way. If they could pull a trigger, they could fight. Movement in. The tower, Lisa reported. They looked up at the tall building next to the shelter. Vrak snipers had taken position on the roof. Their weapons could hit targets from great distance. I can take them, Lisa said. With that head injury? Danny asked. I can manage. Zephyr 9 watched Lisa check her weapon. Her hands were steady despite the blood on her face. A concussion that would disable most species for days seemed to barely slow her down. Do it, Danny ordered. Lisa moved to a better position. She climbed the damaged stairs of a nearby building. Each step looked painful. But she reached the second floor and set up her rifle. The first shot echoed across the settlement. A Vrak sniper fell from the tower. One down. Lisa reported. The second shot followed quickly. Another enemy fell, but the third shot missed. Lisa's head injury was affecting her aim. The Vrak snipers started shooting back. Energy beams cut through the walls around her. Lisa, get out of there, Danny called. Negative. I can still take them. She fired again. Miss. The return fire was getting closer. Pieces of the building exploded around her. Zephyr 9 made a decision that surprised him. He stood up and ran toward Lisa's building. What are you doing? Danny shouted. Zephyr-9 did not answer. He was not sure himself. But he could not watch Lisa die alone. He reached the building and climbed the stairs. His crystal body was clumsy, but he managed. He found Lisa on the second floor. Blood ran from her nose now. Her vision was blurred. You should not be here, she said. Neither should you, Zephyr 9 replied. An energy beam burned through the wall near his head. The heat was intense. Any closer and it would have cracked his crystal skin. For the first time in his life, Zephyr 9 experienced real danger. Real fear. His people had words for this feeling, but he had never understood them before. Can you see the targets? He asked Lisa. Barely. Everything's fuzzy. Zephyr 9 looked out the window. His crystal eyes could see clearly even through the smoke. 3 Vrak snipers remained on the tower roof. Left corner. Behind the metal barrier, he said. Lisa aimed where? He pointed and fired. The shot hit home, center position. Next to the communication dish, another shot, another hit, right side. Crouched behind ventilation unit, the last sniper fell. Good shooting, Zephyr 9 said. Lisa tried to stand but stumbled. The head injury was getting worse. Can't see straight anymore. Zephyr 9 helped her down the stairs. Each step sent vibrations through his crystal body. But he did not let go of her. They rejoined Danny's squad. The sergeant looked at them both with concern. Status. Report, he demanded. Snipers are down, Lisa said, but uncompromised. Can't aim properly, Danny studied her face. The bleeding had started again. Her eyes could not focus properly. Any normal military unit would evacuate her immediately. Can you still pull a trigger? Danny asked. Yes, then you're still useful. They moved closer to the shelter building. The Vrak soldiers had heavy weapons aimed at all the doors. Getting inside would be suicide. We need another way in, Danny said. Ben Tucker pointed to a drainage pipe that led under the building. Could try the sewers. Too risky. They'll have those covered too. Amy spoke up despite her pain. What about the roof? They looked up. The shelter had a flat roof with a small access door, but it was 3 stories high with no easy way to climb. How do we get up there? Danny asked. I could make the climb, said a new voice. They turned to see Private Pete Garcia approaching. He was young and athletic, but he had taken shrapnel in his shoulder earlier. His left arm hung uselessly at his side. With one good arm? Ben asked. I've climbed harder things, Pete said. Thought this was madness. A wounded soldier wanting to attempt a dangerous climb. But Danny was already nodding. Do it, we'll cover you. Pete found a damaged wall with enough handholds to climb. Using only his right arm and his legs, he began pulling himself up. Each movement must have caused terrible pain in his wounded shoulder. But he kept climbing. Halfway up, a Vrak soldier spotted him. Energy beams started hitting the wall around Pete. Chunks of concrete exploded. But he did not fall. Danny's squad returned fire. Their bullets kept the enemies' heads down while Pete continued his climb. Blood ran down Pete's side where his wound had reopened. But he reached the roof and disappeared through the access door. I'm in, his voice crackled through the radio. Hostages are in the main hall. About 50 Vrak guards inside. Can you take them? Danny asked. Not all of them, but I can cause some chaos. The sound of gunfire erupted from inside the building. Pete was attacking the guards from behind. Some of the Vrak soldiers outside turned to face the new threat. Now's our chance, Danny said. Move! They charged toward the building. The remaining Vrak outside opened fire. Energy beams filled the air. But the humans did not slow down. Lisa ran despite her head injury. Amy ignored the pain in her leg. Ben carried extra medical supplies while bullets flew around him. Even the other wounded soldiers kept up. Zephyr-9 found himself running with them. His crystal body was not built for combat. But he could not abandon these humans who had shown him such strange courage. They reached the building entrance. Danny kicked down the door. Inside, chaos ruled. Pete's attack had scattered the Vrak guards. Some were fighting him on the upper level. Others were trying to maintain control of the hostages. The human colonists were huddled in the center of the large hall, men, women, and children, all terrified, all looking for rescue. Go, go, go. Danny shouted. His squad rushed into the building. They spread out and began engaging the Vrak guards. The fighting was close and brutal. No room for long-range tactics. Just courage and determination. Zephyr-9 watched Amy dive behind cover. Despite her wounded leg, she fired at enemy soldiers while Ben Tucker worked to free the hostages. Lisa provided cover fire even though she could barely see. This was not the careful, logical warfare his people would wage. This was something else. Something raw and desperate and effective. A Vrak soldier appeared near the hostages. His weapon was aimed at the children. Danny saw the threat and threw himself forward. The enemy's energy beam hit him in the chest. His armor cracked and smoked, but Danny's momentum carried him into the Vrak soldier. They crashed to the ground together. Danny's knife found the gap in the enemy's armor. Danny, Ben called out. The sergeant was hurt badly. The energy beam had burned through his armor and into his ribs. He needed immediate medical attention. Status? Danny gasped. Bad, Ben said honestly. You need surgery. Can I still fight? Ben looked at the wound. It was deep and serious. Danny should be unconscious from pain, but he was still alert. Still ready to continue for a little while, Ben said, but not long. Danny struggled to his feet. His face was pale and covered with sweat, but his eyes were still sharp. Then let's finish this, he said. The battle raged around them. Humans and Vrak fought room by room. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned. Many were wounded. All were tired, but they did not give up. They could not give up. Too many innocent lives depended on them. Zephyr-9 began to understand something profound about these humans. They did not fight despite their pain and fear. They fought because of it. Their suffering made them stronger. Their wounds made them more determined. It was the opposite of everything his people believed. The Cathari thought pain was weakness. But for humans, pain was just another tool to use against their enemies. Captain Morrison's voice crackled through the radio. All teams, Vrak reinforcements are 2 minutes out. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. 2 minutes to finish the rescue. 2 minutes before heavy enemy armor arrived. 2 minutes to save 2,000 lives. The humans heard the message and fought harder. Impossible as it seemed, they found new reserves of strength. New wells of determination. Zephyr-9 realized he was witnessing something his people had never seen. He was watching humans transform their greatest weakness into their greatest strength, and somehow, despite all logic and reason, it was working. The evacuation was chaos. 2,000 frightened colonists streamed out of the shelter building. Human soldiers formed protective lines around them. Enemy fire came from every direction. Zephyr-9 helped carry wounded civilians to the transport. Ships, a human child no more than 6 years old, had been hit by debris. Her leg was broken and bleeding. But she did not cry. She bit her lip and held tight to her mother's hand. "Brave little one," Ben Tucker said as he treated the child's wound, just like her species. Even the human young showed this strange resilience, this ability to endure pain without breaking. Danny Cross leaned against a wall nearby. His chest wound was getting worse. Blood soaked through the emergency bandages. But he continued giving orders to his squad. "Amy, take the left flank. Lisa, cover the north entrance. Pete, how many hostiles on the roof?" 6 left. Pete's voice came through the radio. "But I'm running low on ammunition. Hold position. Evac ships are almost here." Through the smoke and fire, Zephyr-9 could see the rescue ships approaching, but so were the Vrak reinforcements. Dark shapes on the horizon, heavy tanks and armored vehicles. "Contact the command ship," Danny ordered. "Tell them we need more time." "How much more?" Lisa asked. Her head injury was affecting her speech now. Words came slowly and slurred. "Whatever it takes." Captain Morrison's voice cut through the radio chatter. "All units, this is command. Enemy armor is 2 kilometers out. You have maybe 5 minutes before they arrive in force. 5 minutes to evacuate 2,000 people. It was impossible. The math did not work. There were not enough ships. Not enough time. But the humans kept trying anyway. Major Pete Garcia arrived with a squad of Special Forces soldiers. These were the elite human fighters, veterans of dozens of battles. They looked tired and worn but ready for anything. "Situation?" "Report," Pete Garcia demanded. "Most civilians are out," Danny replied. "But we've got wounded who can't move fast. And those Vrak tanks will be here soon." Pete studied the tactical display on his wrist device. The enemy armor was advancing in a solid line. "Nothing could stop that much firepower. We need a blocking force," Pete said. "Someone to slow them down while the evac finishes." "Volunteer mission?" Danny asked. "Suicide mission," Pete corrected. "Whoever stays behind won't be coming home." The radio went quiet. Everyone understood what Pete was saying. Someone had to sacrifice themselves to save the others. "I'll do it." Lisa said, "Your head injury makes you a liability," Pete replied. "We need someone who can aim straight." "Then I'll stay," Amy said. "My leg wound slows down the squad anyway." "You're too inexperienced for this kind of operation." Danny struggled to stand straighter. "I'll take a team and hold the line." "With that chest wound, you can barely stand." Ben Tucker looked up from treating wounded colonists. I could stay. Set up a field hospital for anyone who gets left behind. Pete shook his head. We need you with the main force. Too many wounded need treatment. One by one, every human volunteer was rejected for their injuries. The irony was brutal. They were all too wounded to stay and fight, but none were too wounded to try. I will stay, Zephyr 9 said quietly. Everyone stared at him. The crystal alien who had never fought a battle, who belonged to a species that avoided all pain and conflict. You don't understand what you're saying, Pete told him. This is a one-way mission. The Vrak tanks will destroy everything in this area. I understand, Zephyr 9 replied, but I am the only one here without injuries that affect combat ability. This was true but also absurd. Zephyr 9 had no military training. His people had no weapons experience. He would be useless against enemy armor, but something had changed in him during the battle. Watching the humans fight despite their pain had awakened something new, a willingness to face danger for others. Absolutely not, Danny said. You're a non-combatant, a researcher. It's not your job to die for us. Whose job is it then? Zephyr 9 asked. The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer. In human military culture, it was everyone's job. Every soldier was expected to sacrifice for the mission, for their comrades, for innocent lives. I'll stay with the Crystal Man, said a new voice. They turned to see Specialist Karen Webb approaching. She was an explosives expert from Pete Garcia's team, young and skilled but with a fierce reputation. Webb, you're needed with the main force, Pete said. With respect, sir, someone needs to teach our alien friend how to use our weapons. I'm the best demolitions expert you have. If we're going to slow down those tanks, we'll need every explosive we can rig. Pete considered this. Webb was right about the explosives. And if someone was going to stay behind anyway, having an experienced soldier with them made sense. Very well, Pete decided. Webb and the Shethari will form the rearguard. Everyone else finished the evacuation. Karen Webb walked over to Zephyr 9. She was small for a human, but carried herself with confidence. Her equipment pack contained enough explosives to level a building. Ever used a weapon before, Crystal Man? She asked. No, my people do not fight wars. Well, you're about to learn. Fast course in human combat tactics coming up. The last evacuation ships were loading colonists. The wounded humans helped wear. They could Lissa guided civilians despite her blurred vision. Amy carried children despite her injured leg. Danny coordinated the operation despite his chest wound. None of them complained about their injuries. None of them asked for special treatment. They just did their jobs. Here, Webb said, handing Zephyr 9 a human rifle. Point and shoot. The computer will help with targeting. Try not to hit any of our people. The weapon felt strange in his crystal hands. Heavy and crude compared to Cathari technology. But it was designed for war, built to kill. Why are you helping me? Zephyr 9 asked Webb. Because you volunteered to stay behind. Anyone brave enough to do that deserves backup. I am not brave, I am terrified, Webb smiled. Good, fear keeps you alive. Just don't let it stop you from doing what needs to be done. The ground began to shake. In the distance, the Vrak tanks were approaching. Massive war machines covered. In armor and bristling with weapons, the last evacuation ship lifted off. Danny Cross was on board, unconscious from blood loss. Lisa Hart was with him, still trying to coordinate rescue operations despite her concussion. Amy Stone sat with the wounded children, telling them stories to keep them calm. All the humans were evacuating, all except 2. And just us now, Webb said cheerfully. Think we can take on an entire armored division? The odds are approximately 10,000 to 1 against us, Zephyr 9 calculated. I like those odds. Means they won't be expecting much resistance. Webb began setting explosive charges on the road leading into the settlement. She worked quickly and efficiently. Her movements were precise despite the approaching danger. What is your plan? Zephyr 9 asked. Blow the first few tanks? Create a traffic jam. Force them to spread out and come at us slowly. Buy time for the evac ships to get clear, And then? Then we die gloriously in battle. It's the human way, she said it so casually. As if death was just another part of the job? For humans, maybe. The first tank appeared around the bend in the road. It was enormous. Black armor covered every surface. Multiple gun turrets tracked back and forth looking for targets. Wait for it, Webb whispered. The tank rolled over her first explosive. Charge. Nothing happened. The device was set to detonate when multiple vehicles were in the kill zone. The second tank appeared, then the third. A convoy of death machines advancing toward them. Now, Webb said. She triggered the explosives. The road erupted in fire and smoke. The lead tank was thrown sideways and crashed into a building. The second tank's tracks were destroyed. It sat disabled in the road, but the third tank kept coming. Its guns swiveled toward their position. Move! Webb shouted. They ran as energy beams cut through the air behind them. The building they had been hiding in exploded into fragments. Heat and debris rained down around them. Zephyr 9 felt pain for the first time in his life. Real, sharp pain as a piece of hot metal cut into his crystal arm. The sensation was overwhelming. Every instinct told him to curl up and wait for help, but he kept running. Kept following Webb as she led them to the next defensive position. You're hit, she observed. Zephyr-9 looked at his arm. Crystal fluid leaked from the crack like blood. The pain was constant and distracting, but he was still functional. I can continue, he said. Webb nodded approvingly. Good, because this is just the beginning. More tanks were coming. The Vrak had brought their entire armored division. Dozens of vehicles spread out across the settlement, each one capable of destroying buildings with single shots. How do we fight this? Zephyr 9 asked. Carefully. And with lots of explosives, Webb rigged another trap. This time she used the settlement's fuel depot. When the tanks approached, she would detonate the entire facility. They waited in the ruins of a house. Zephyr 9 watched the tanks advance. Each step brought them closer to death, but Webb seemed calm, almost relaxed. Are you not afraid? He asked her. Terrified, Webb replied. But fear doesn't change the mission. Those evac ships need time. We give them time. Even if it kills us? Especially if it kills us. That's what humans do. We die for what matters. The tanks reached the fuel depot. Webb's finger hovered over the detonator. One press would create a massive explosion. It would destroy several tanks. It would also kill anyone within 2 kilometers, including them. Last chance to run, Webb told him. Zephyr 9 woke up in a medical bay. White lights hurt his crystal eyes. Machines beeped around him. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. His left arm was wrapped in bandages. The crack in his crystal skin had been sealed with some kind of polymer compound. The pain was still there, but manageable. You're awake, said a voice nearby. Zephyr 9 turned his head. Medic Tony Rivera sat at a desk writing reports. The human looked tired, dark circles under his eyes. His uniform was stained with blood. How long was I unconscious? Zephyr 9 asked. 3 days. You took a lot of damage in that explosion. Your crystal body doesn't heal the same way human flesh does. Zephyr 9 tried to remember what happened after Webb triggered the explosives. Everything was a blur of fire and pain and falling debris. Then darkness. Did we succeed? Are the colonists safe? Tony smiled. All 2,000 evacuated successfully. You and Webb bought them enough time to reach the fleet. And Webb? Tony's smile faded. She didn't make it. Found her body near the fuel depot. Looks like she stayed behind to trigger a secondary explosion. Took out 6 more tanks before they got her. Zephyr 9 felt something strange in his chest. A hollow ache that had nothing to do with his physical injuries. Humans called this grief. His people had no equivalent emotion. She saved my life, he said quietly. She saved a lot of lives. That's what humans do. Tony finished his report and stood up. Want to see the others? Most of your squad is still here recovering, Zephyr 9 nodded. Tony led him through the medical bay. It was filled with injured soldiers from the Kepler 442b mission. Humans with burns, broken bones, and other wounds. But none of them looked defeated. They talked and laughed with each other. They planned for their next missions. They found Danny Cross in a bed near the window. His chest was wrapped in thick bandages. Tubes connected him to various machines. But he was awake and alert. "Crystal Man," Danny called out. "Heard you went full human on those tanks." "I am not sure what that means," Zephyr9 replied. "Means you stayed and fought when any sane person would have run. Welcome to the club." Lisa Hart was in the next bed. Her head was shaved where the doctors had worked on her concussion. A scar ran across her scalp, but her eyes were clear and focused again. "How do you feel?" she asked Zephyr9. "Different," he said honestly. "I do not think the same way I did before." "Battle changes you?" "Especially your first real one." Amy Stone sat in a wheelchair nearby. Her leg was in a cast from hip to ankle. The Vrak energy weapon had done more damage than anyone realized. But she was working on a tablet computer, writing her after-action report. "Will you be able to walk?" "Again?" Zephyr9 asked her. "Eventually, maybe with a limp. But I'll be back in the field within 6 months." "You want to return to combat? After being injured?" Amy looked at him strangely. "Of course. This is what I do, what we all do." Ben Tucker appeared with a cart of medical supplies. The medic had bandages on both arms and a healing cut across his forehead, but he moved efficiently between patients. "How many wounded from the mission?" Zephyr9 asked him. 43 hospitalized. 12 with permanent disabilities. 3 dead including Webb. The numbers were staggering. Almost a quarter of the human force had been seriously injured. Yet they spoke of the mission as a success. "Do you regret the cost?" Zephyr9 asked. Ben stopped working and looked at him. "Seriously, 2,000 civilians are alive because of what we did. Their children will grow up free. That's worth any price." Captain Morrison entered the medical bay. His arm was still in a sling from his training injury, but he looked better than most. He walked between the beds checking on his people. "Zephyr9, Jake said when he reached them. "Good to see you awake. Coalition Command wants to debrief." "You, about what? Your observations?" "Your analysis of human combat effectiveness. That's why you were embedded with us, remember?" Zephyr9 had almost forgotten his original mission. Studying human warfare seemed less important now than understanding human nature. They walked to a conference room. Admiral Susan Clark was waiting there. A high-ranking human officer with gray hair and sharp eyes. She looked at Zephyr9 with curiosity. "Researcher Zephyr9, she said formally. "Thank you for your service during the Kepler 442b operation. Your actions were above and beyond what anyone expected." "I only did what seemed necessary." "Exactly, that's very human of you." Admiral Clark activated a holographic display. It showed casualty reports from various battles. Human forces always took heavy losses, but they also had the highest mission success rates in Coalition history. "We need to understand how humans achieve these results," she said. "Other species want to adopt human combat methods, but they don't understand the underlying psychology." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How do humans fight through injuries that would disable other species? How do they maintain morale despite heavy casualties? What drives them to sacrifice themselves for others?" Zephyr9 considered the questions. A week ago, he would have given academic answers about evolution and survival instincts. Now he knew the truth was more complex. "Humans do not fight despite their pain," he said slowly. "They fight because of it." Admiral Clark leaned forward. "Explain." "Pain tells humans something is important, something worth defending. The more they suffer, the more committed they become. But surely there's a breaking point. A level of suffering where humans give up?" Zephyr9 thought about Webb triggering the explosives, about Danny commanding with a hole in his chest, about Amy wanting to return to combat despite her injuries. "I have not observed this breaking point," he said. "That's what makes them unique," Admiral Clark agreed. "Other species fight until the cost becomes too high. Humans fight until the mission is complete, regardless of cost." Is this why the Coalition needs human soldiers? It's why the Coalition needs to understand human soldiers. We're facing enemies who don't negotiate, who don't show mercy. Against such foes, the human approach may be our only option. Admiral Clark showed him more data. Battle reports from across Coalition space. Wherever humans served, mission success rates improved dramatically. But so did casualty rates. We're asking other species to adopt human tactics. But without the human mindset, they just get themselves killed needlessly. You want me to teach other species to think like humans? We want you to help us understand if that's even possible. Can other species learn to embrace suffering the way humans do? Or is this something unique to human psychology? Zephyr 9 spent the next hour answering questions. He described everything he had observed during the mission. The way humans transformed. Pain into determination. Their willingness to sacrifice for others. Their refusal to give up despite impossible odds. When the debriefing ended, Admiral Clark had one final question. Would you volunteer for another mission with human forces? Zephyr 9 touched the sealed crack in his crystal arm. The injury still hurt. It probably always would. His people would see it as a mark of failure, a sign that he had abandoned proper Cathari behavior, but he had learned something valuable. Something his entire species needed to understand. Yes, he said, I would volunteer again. Admiral Clark smiled. I thought you might. Welcome to the human way of thinking, researcher. Later, Zephyr 9 sat alone in his quarters writing his official report. The document would be read by military leaders across Coalition space. His words might influence how future wars were fought. He wrote about human resilience, about their ability to function despite injuries, about their willingness to sacrifice for the mission. But the most important lesson was harder to put into words. Humans understood that some things were worth any price: freedom, justice, the lives of innocents. When these values were threatened, humans would endure any suffering to defend them. Other species fought to minimize their losses. Humans fought to achieve their goals. The difference explained everything about their combat effectiveness. A message arrived on his communication device. It was from the Cathari Science Council. They were ordering him to return home immediately. His actions on Kepler 442b had caused concern among his people. Zephyr 9 read the message twice, then deleted it. He was not ready to go home yet. There was still too much to learn about humans, too much to understand about courage and sacrifice and the price of freedom. His crystal arm throbbed with pain. But for the first time in his life, pain felt like progress, like growth, like the cost of becoming something better than he was before. Webb had been right. He was learning to think like a human, and it was changing everything about who he wanted to be. 3 days later, Captain Morrison found him in the observation deck looking out at the stars. New mission briefing in an hour, Jake said. Vrak Empire is attacking the mining colonies in the Centauri system. Looks like another tough one. How tough? The kind where we'll probably all get shot at least once. Maybe twice if we're unlucky. Jake paused, studying Zephyr 9's reaction. You sure you want to keep doing this? Your people won't understand? Hell, I'm not sure I understand why you want to. Zephyr 9 thought about Karen Webb dying to save others, about Amy Stone wanting to return to combat despite her injuries, about humans who transformed their suffering into strength. I want to learn more about